Well, welcome to another Tim Vigil fantastic video. And today I'm going to do a little talking on composition, whatever that is. It's pretty simple. Composition is based off of geometry, circles, triangles, squares, eye movement around, balance within the paper. If you look at Frazetta's work, a lot of his work is triangles, so you see a very strong structure within the painting. But circles are pretty easy. Like if we draw a circle, you can do it this way first, but I keep the shit in my head, so I don't have to do it this way. Let's say you do a circle, and then we have, like, say, battling people, rocks and stuff around here, and this guy's jumping up ready to chop, and these guys are jumping at him. This guy has a shield or something, but you can see that it fits within the circle then. And maybe this is a dead person right here, but it's all within on this. And if we wanted to do another composition, like a rectangle and then a triangle, you could set like a dude. Let's keep it warriors. Like he has his sword cocked back, but he's a triangle. And this guy, big giant like dude, set up. And maybe this arm comes up with the shield, and he has his axe. But he's basically within a rectangle. He's a triangle. And I mean, composition is pretty easy. You know, you just keep movement in mind of what you're doing, and you want to, like, say, like how Kirby used to draw like a guy very much up close, and then you want to move in, and you got like another guy here, and then maybe you have another guy coming up over the top, you know. But it's all layered, and there's maybe another guy smaller underneath this guy, so this guy's in the foreground, and these guys are all diving in, so your movement now swings into this guy, and he's protecting himself, sort of, you know. So you want to just constantly keep things coming out and going in. And the thing that hurts people the most is that they draw flat. I mean, you can still have a composition, but you don't have depth. And the depth comes in on how your lines are overlapping. You know, like this guy is coming into it. So we want to, you know, and if this sword comes back over, so he's coming in and his leg is up, you know, and you want to keep a dimension of your figure. And this guy is back here, so you gotta, you know, you gotta know what position you are in the picture, what your perspective is on the person or the item, and work it toward that. You don't want things to be flat, going like this, you know, and two-dimension. You always want to be able to swing in somehow and put little things in that your eye catches and bring into it. And even with static things, you have to know your perspective on what you're looking at. That will help render the composition or your figures within the composition more fully. I mean, even these, there's a sense of meatiness to it, just in the roundness that you can draw, and how you set this back and this foot flat. This is going this way, and this is the weight of this, and you got to keep this in mind. As I've always said, that, you know, drawing is a thinking process, and it's not something that you can just sit there and go, oh, it's not magic. You know, you can't just, you know, look at a piece of paper and it's gonna come to you. It's just gonna happen. You got to think, like, you know, what's happening, and what am I seeing, and how am I seeing it? And is it correct in which way it goes? So you got to constantly be thinking about what you're doing. You know, so this guy's looking down here, and this guy's head is turning to look at this guy, and these overlap, so you know this guy's back from this guy, and that swings in a kind of an oval geometry in there. And this is, so you know, you got to keep it in mind how things are working structurally. You got to keep your dimensions right. Like if this is the back, you know, as much as this is the rib cage and this is his head, and this is his ear isn't flat on it. We're looking down onto this guy, so now we got to get the top of his brow, the top of his cheek, you know, and get his nose in there and his neck muscle in here. And you got to think it. You got to think what you're doing. And then this muscle comes down, and this muscle goes out over this. But then you have a little open area for the muscles to separate here, then come back, and then this comes in here. You get a shoulder blade, and then this arm comes out, and we know that it's working its way out. So these overlap. And then this arm goes up. So now we're going up. And you can see some meatiness in this already, just a scribble. Just because of the way I'm overlapping things. I know that this hilt of the sword is on top of this hand, and then this goes back down onto that. And then this fist, and this thumb wraps around this. You got your knuckles, and then you got like a wristband that goes around the arm. It fits on the arm. It doesn't go straight across. That's how a lot of people mess up. You got to move with the figure. And there's a great book by Bern Hogarth on drapery and clothing that explains basically all this fullness of figures and how clothes now, if I did clothes, would wrap. It sits on top of the body. It doesn't, you know, it's not a tight. It's not just on it and stretching. It fits over. And you have to know that this opening will go under. And these are wrapping. And this stretch of this clothing will move with the body and on stress. Like this is pulling because his arm's up now. And this part just kind of folds up. Now if this guy has a helmet with a kind of a fin on it, how does that come across the head and sit? And how does that helmet now sit on the face? So everything sits on layers, but within a dimension. And then this comes and we'll see the top of that. And so you get fullness and structure within your. And then see how that moves now. See how that sits. And this sits like a triangle now in here. It has force. It has a force looking this way, and it's moving that way, and it's aggressive. You got to keep these in mind, you know. I'm just not just sitting here going, I don't got anything in my head, and this shit comes up. You got to think on it. And now that this arm's over here, see how this one wrapped at an angle up, this will now go down because it's away from me, and it'll wrap around this arm. And then these muscles start filling in, but it's going within the dimension of what I want. And then I'll refine this if I was to finish it, you know, just the scribble and put a piece of paper over it or something, and then go in and redraw it and refine it. This gives me the basics. Like if there's clothing here on the hip now, this pulls around the hips, and this leg would come out. You see it's moving, and this is moving, and it's stressing. There's a strength now on this stance, this foot. This, you know, it has to have some force to it, like he's stressing and flexed within this to make it look like, you know, he's attacking. And then there's this sword hilt and comes in here, or the sword, whatever that thing's called, his sleeve, sheath or whatever, has to sit on the arm and or the leg and the hip and the body and pull out because he's moving. If you had a knife here, how that would fit and stuff, then you can just design that. And, you know, it's basic. Compositions are, you know, balance. And, you know, you see this in abstract. Abstract is just geometry fixed on each other. And if I wanted to, I can make this, you know, more dimensional and perspective compositions. You know, if I sat here and go, okay, there's my, how does it all fit into this? You know, how does my character now fit into this box? And this might be, you know, an arm coming out from this guy over here, but this fits into the circle over here. Then this arm hooks in here, and this guy now is, or I could do this and bring this foot back like he's on his knee or something to fit within this. So that's how I think of composition. It's not really a heavy thing. I mean, you could read a book on it. There's percentages of balances and stuff like that I kind of know, but I don't really know. I just know that, you know, you want things to work and move and be dimensional within the drawing. But, you know, again, the structure for Zeta is very much like this, like Conan sitting here with his hand on the sword. And I went down, and he was like this, and the chick was like right here in the Conan cover. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's a triangle. And that's his composition he uses over and over and over again. Like Death Dealer and his horse was here, and it sat like this, but he was up here, and so it sat like this. Does it over and over and over again. So you just want to create your movement within the drawing, and you want to swirl, and you want things to go in and out. You don't want things to go this way. I mean, you can, just little bits, but mostly you want things to be moving within and out, and dropping down. So that's composition and the confusing world of Vigil. Enjoy!